Good afternoon, good evening. It's a great pleasure to welcome you again back to our political discussions on the Mediterranean and the southern neighborhood. Commissioner Suica, which we have originally invited, sends us the best greetings. She is traveling in the Gulf region. Well, an important issue, and we are later on going to discuss this topic as well. I'm very delighted, Tena, to have you with us. We have met many years ago in a different context when you had still been in Croatia. Kava, we have a lot of experience. You had been with us last year as well, an expert on the Middle East and the Gulf regions. And, well, I think that the Commission now created a new directorate for the Mediterranean is a strong sign, and it reflects definitely the strategic importance of the Mediterranean for the security of Europe, for the well-being, and I would like to compare it a bit with the establishment of a Commissioner for Defense. This clearly shows what Europe is now heading on. And I think we have chosen a perfect time because 2 months ago you have published the Pact on the Mediterranean. This is one of the big ambitious projects. It's a flagship initiative, and it's a very ambitious one, I would say, covering investments in clean energy, green technology, trade, digital skills, education. We talked about the importance before. And next spring, and I'm very curious, maybe you can unveil already a bit the secrets about the action plan, because, well, having a nice concept is one issue, putting this into reality and implementing is the other more relevant one. So we will later look a bit into the issue, what is different, because we are not for the first time on the European level dealing with the Mediterranean region. Kava, the reason why I invited you as well is because you're an expert more on the Gulf region and the eastern part, but it's interesting to link these both theaters together, and that is another part I will deal a bit more later on. But Tena, let me start with you. It's a fresh political commitment. It's a very strong signal, and it includes major topics from trade, energy, to security and migration. So let me start with my first question. Is this not overloaded? Is this the usual way Europe does? Put a lot of things into one strategy, and then if it comes to the implementation, we will failing a bit. So is it not too much, or do you think this can be brought together under a very comprehensive and self-reinforcing concept?
Thank you very much, Peter, for the kind introduction. It's really a pleasure to be here at the European Ideas Forum. And as you said, the Commissioner would have loved to be here. She's sending her greetings from the Gulf region where she's on her mission. I'm sure you'll see her very soon in one of your other events. You rightly said that this portfolio is a clear political signal. It's a strategic choice. To create a portfolio, a dedicated commissioner, and a service to the region of Mediterranean that covers also North Africa, Middle East, and the Gulf countries. This is recognizing the importance of our immediate neighborhood, but it's also changing, I would say, a philosophy in us approaching the region, not only as a source of the challenge, but also as a source of shared opportunities. New service, DG MENA started its work 10 months ago. We have done a lot of things in the meantime, and thinking about it's only been a year in the mandate, there has been many changes. So when you say that we are ambitious, I think it's a right word to say, because we really are. And it is a broader coverage of number of topics, because the opportunities and the challenges in the region are broad.
I liked it very much that you put it out of this crisis perspective. Kava, I remember the discussion we had last year on the region, and for me, too much is always seen as a threat, be it migration, security, terrorism. These are the things the Europeans normally associate with this region. But we and the Martin Center in particular have a huge interest, of course, to change this perspective. And I'm very delighted in this respect that the Commission indeed sees a lot of opportunities. We touch a bit later on how this will be implemented on the ground, because this requires a different kind of approach and perspective. Kava, looking a bit further to the east, even maybe more complicated issue, how do you like to link these two theaters? Are there common issues, or are the challenges extremely different? If you look, for example, to Northern Africa on the Atlantic coast almost, and to the Gulf region where Commissioner Witter currently is. How do you see the linkages, or is there a clear division which we have to attack in different issues?
Thank you so much, dear Peter. Good evening, and thank you so much for the invitation. Happy to be here in person. As you remember, last year I couldn't come in person, was online from Baghdad. Happy I made it this time around, so thank you. Honor to be here and to share the panel. First of all, I think you are right. You know, there are certain analysis that isn't this overloaded with too many countries being grouped together in one, pact. Well, I mean, the jury is still out. I think I fully agree that this is a very ambitious pact, and it's good that it's ambitious. And I have spoken to, government officials, both in North Africa, but also in Middle East, in the Gulf, activists, analysts, over the past few months. During my visits, also among others, talked about this pact. What I came away with it is that actually they appreciate this pact for a lot of reasons. First of all, in their view, the fact that we have a newly established DG for MENA is really appreciated, because as you remember, in the past was combined with Eastern Europe and the Eastern neighborhood. So this has been a recurrent kind of, I would say, critique and request to have a one DG which deals with it. So it's really appreciated. And you have a dedicated commissioner for that. So I think that's definitely a positive development. The fact that the pact focuses on or sees the region as not as a risk, but actually as a space for potentials. That's also very much appreciated by governments, analysts, practitioners, and activists in the region. There are challenges. So what I see is that two challenges. One is a technical challenge, and the other one is a political challenge. But before coming to that, are there differences between the Gulf and the Middle East and North Africa? There are definitely, differences between these two parts of the region or the Mediterranean, and we'll see how the pact in practice will deal with this diversity. So we don't know yet. We have to wait for the implementation. But I think there are definitely common challenges, common issues, be it issue of instability, be it issue of economic development, be it issues of migration and how to deal with it. So there are common topics, common issues, and there are, of course, also differences. So I think I'm really looking forward to see the action plan when it's out, hopefully in early next year, how from a strategic point of view, the commissioner will deal with this diversity between the two regions. But I can get back later on to the challenges.
I would like to keep up the tension, because, of course, we are very much curious in seeing what will be released in spring, how you really put these things on the ground. But I would like to go to a point you mentioned, Tena, in the terms of implementation, also how we bring in our neighbors, our partners, because I just finished a study on the Northern Africa and the development policy, which is a typical case study. And what I heard from all of my partners there is we would like to be co-owner, as we say in this very technocratical language. We want to have joint governments. We want to be part of the design of these projects, because it's not about you top on us, but it's a joint project, and only success can be guaranteed if we are both sitting equally on the table. So how will you follow these perspectives, these different philosophy, which you mentioned, Kawa, before?
I really believe that the talks that you had comes after the creation of DG MENA, the creation of portfolio with a commissioner that is leading it, and also throughout the process of creating the pact. We took a little bit of time because the commissioner really wanted to have a broad consultation process. We spoke with the member states, we spoke with the countries in the region, and let me just underline that the pact is covering the North Africa and the Middle East, but of course there are countries that are neighbors of neighbors, and this is where we are trying to bring them together to tackle some of the issues that are common. The Middle East, it's difficult to solve without our partners in the Gulf countries. But going back to the pact, it was presented 2 months ago, but I would like to underline that 2 weeks ago, we've launched it together with the partners. We were in Barcelona, marking 30 years of Barcelona process. And here there's a symbol of us not starting from scratch. We have the 30 years of Barcelona process. We have the Union for Mediterranean, the new agenda adopted in 2021. What we are bringing new to the table, it's the process that we did, and that was to do it together with the countries in North Africa and Middle East, to start by setting the agenda on what is our common interest, the initiatives in the sectors of common interest. And at the end of the day, in the, let's say, implementation phase through the action plan, the feeling of the co-responsibility. We will do the action plan. This is the part that maybe I can unveil today. The action plan will be indeed adopted at the beginning of next year. It will set all of these initiatives more in detail. They will be really concrete with the tangible results. The countries that will be participating and a bit of timeline. But we are creating it together with the 10 countries of the Mediterranean region. And here we create the co-ownership. Here we create also the responsibility and the accountability that these issues, whether it's a challenge or an opportunity, we will be doing together.
You correctly mentioned that we're not starting from the scratch, and it's not just the European Union playing an important role. We have a lot of bilateral relations which go far back into the colonial times, certain. And well, one of the reasons why we are not so effective in the region is that we are divided. Of course, we have to acknowledge this fact. Look into the Gaza conflict, for example, that Europe is unfortunately not pulling at one rope, and this diminished absolutely our influence. So that, I think, remains an issue. Or do you think there is a common ground, a framework, which all these bilateral initiatives also can join in?
Well, the pact and the initiative, especially the flagship ones, are the regional initiatives, and the countries or the member states that will want to be part of it will, let's say, choose. Specifically for Middle East, we see the pact as also as an incentive for the stability and peace. There was the idea behind the pact is really in these times of geopolitical and economic uncertainties to step up the relationship that we have with partners, because this is the only way to create stability, security, and prosperity for all of us.
Talking about incentives, money is one issue, to put it quite bluntly, but there must be another issue, because the budget is definitely not increasing. We need to bring in other stakeholders. Private companies, for example, play an important role. I will talk a bit later on the different topics, but I think widening the stakeholders, as we say in our language, is definitely one we have to acknowledge and to strengthen and incentivize indeed.
Indeed, I think that the priorities that we have in the current MFF through different instruments, not just the NDICI Global Europe, but through Global Gateway and the others, together with the international financial institution, with private sector, and this is also where we work with the countries, that is their legislative framework and what type of reforms can be implemented through that, so that the private companies also have a see that they can come there, use the opportunities of the countries that we are talking about. And then, the standard line is that we will not preempt what is in the next MFF, but you've seen the proposal. The amount for the region, North Africa, Middle East, and the Gulf, doubled to 42 billion.
Which is an impressive sign and also a message to the region. But we have seen other initiatives in the past. Carmen, let's go a bit back. You correctly pointed out to incentivize, to create this responsibility. Where did we fail in the past, if we may say?
Well, I think you both mentioned the issue of co-ownership. I think a qualitative difference with previous initiatives, European neighborhood policy, new agenda, is that if you talk to stakeholders in the region, is that most of the time they were, I would say, Eurocentric approach, and that not always, but most of the time, top down. And that's why, in most cases, probably it didn't work. Of course, it takes two to tango. It's not only the responsibility of EU, it's also responsibility of the regional stakeholders to take ownership. So I think that is an issue. And my sense is that this time around, EU has done really a fantastic job. when you speak again to regional stakeholders, they say they appreciated the intensive consultation with them prior to the adoption of the pact. So I think here there is a qualitative difference, and it should be said, and credit is due to EU here. But when it comes to the challenges, you mentioned the issue of financing, and we don't know yet. I mean, the financing is not there yet, so it depends also a lot on private funding. So we have to wait how the issue of financing will be, of course, addressed. But the more fundamental challenge, in my view, is the regional and global geopolitical trend, globally, but also regionally. And that is what we could call transactionalism. That is the currency of the era, and that has an impact on this initiative, but also other initiatives. So what I'm trying to say is that while the pact focuses on practical, technical cooperation, the pact can be decoupled from politics. And in my view, the implementation of it will be a litmus test for EU, not only for being a genuine partner and creating co-ownership, but also a litmus test for EU as a geopolitical actor. You mentioned the Gaza war, and I think that's key here, because let's be honest, we in Europe, we do have a credibility crisis in the region due to the differences within the EU as how to tackle the collapse of rule-based order in Gaza. And that is a big, big issue, and a lot of work needs to be done there to address that. But if the pact implemented well, and particularly the third pillar on investment, on integrated economies, on energy, I think I can say with confidence that it will be the first EU attempt at creating a genuine framework for strategic partnership.
Well, one of the frameworks we are discussing domestically is this huge transformation project, sustainable transformation, digital transformation, demographic transformation. All these issues which you had put into the pact, from water, energy, food, absolutely of strategic importance. It's now even debated here in Europe whether we should continue and how we should continue with this transformation. How would you like to implement that with your neighbors, with your partners? Is this not a strange thing if we are now more critical about that, and at the same time we are trying to implement this in the region? So what would be a specific difference, a specific approach to the transformation which we think is necessary? That is, I think, without any doubt.
You've mentioned the energy part, the climate part.
Yep.
Well, it's not a secret. The climate change is not just an EU challenge. It's a global one. So I think that we can see the pact as a perfect example of the EU intention or of transforming the internal and external, or let's say connecting, interlinking our external learning, the best practices and the policies from us to the neighbors, and trying to tackle them. And in this specific case, we will be doing the different initiatives that will also help them to do the transition. And when we talk about the transition from the business point of view, and we believe that they've been starting to realize it, also the investment part of it, and then these investments then bring jobs. They bring skills. So I think that we should look at it from the point of view of trying to help each other with the best practices, to change the internal policies into external, and at the end of the day tackle the challenges that are joint one. Mediterranean Sea is a hotspot. If I remember well, the temperature is rising 20% faster than for the rest. So and this has consequences on the food security, on the energy, on many other policies that we also in the EU are facing with.
I would like now to give you the opportunity to share your thoughts, your comments. Who would like to start? We have microphones, I assume. Is there any comments? Any willingness? I don't. Well, Shuja, please go ahead. Do we have a microphone? So we are just waiting for a second. So, wonderful.
Thank you, and thank you for this opportunity. So I really liked what you said, Mr. Hassan, about partnership and ownership. And I think the word that we can use to describe how partner countries can exercise their own agency is very important. So as you said, it takes two to tango. So could you assess how the EU is actually becoming more of a geopolitical actor in this sense? And how would you assess the partner countries' ability to exercise that agency, which is so important to really shape that partnership and really have ownership?
How they implement the agency, sorry?
Or how they use this opportunity to negotiate the partnership. Because the way that I relate to your experience is, of course, I work on a different region, but I recognize the same challenge. So Peter and I work closely on the Indo-Pacific, and there I hear the same concern that the EU does not take into consideration what partner countries really want and how they want it. So it takes two in that sense as well, because partner countries should play more agency, should be more in charge. So that's...
Sure. I think this is a question to both of you, but let me start with the cover. You have been addressed.
Thank you so much. It's an essential question, an existential question, actually, the issue of geopolitical act, EU as a geopolitical actor and regional agency. I think on the issue of geopolitical actor, what is needed to be done is for EU to focus on what was mentioned during the opening remarks of the President of the Wolfram Atlas Center, rules-based international order. So I think we need a real robust policy in the Middle East to address the collapse of a rules-based international order due to the Gaza war. If there is no change in that, I don't see how we as Europe can somehow reclaim the lost credibility. So I think there's a lot of work to be done. The pact maybe can't do it, but the pact is not decoupled from the politics, right? When it comes to the regional agency, I think here the countries themselves, they should take their own responsibilities. I think it's about time that we should not only criticize EU, but also we should criticize the partners for take the the great opportunity which is there, the pact, and to be honest in their communication about their concerns and requests, and at the same time to be also a force for good in their own region in terms of contributing to conflict resolution, but also contributing to to be a model for regional cooperation between themselves. So I think there definitely there is they appreciate this new pact, but agency doesn't mean that you always criticize EU, but also you should look intern and be honest with yourselves that what are your, how you can make use of this pact to assert agency.
I can imagine it's these days, and related to the Gaza conflict, it's not the easiest environment, and it's different if I look to the Northern African situation, for example, which are even, you correctly said it's neighbors, it's even closer to us in comparison to the Middle East, for example. But nonetheless, the challenges remain. The burning issues are well known. Migration remains an issue. Climate change is a long-term issue. What is your messaging? And I really liked what you said. Have a positive message out there. We have something to offer, don't we?
We are. The EU is trusted and valuable partner, and this is why, on top of the pact, which is really created together with them, so there's a co-ownership and there's a joint responsibility, and at the end of the day, accountability that we will implement together these initiatives. There are win-win situations for both sides, and creating this throughout, from the day one of the mandate until the 16th of October when we adopted it, was indeed to go through sector by sector, putting people in the center, trying to interconnect the economic part, and knowing that without the security, there will be no other positive or win-win situation at the end. But on top of it, there are still strategic and comprehensive partnership with countries in the region. So the pact is focused on the regional initiatives. But country to country, the EU has a relationship with every single one. And we are creating here in the North Africa and Middle East strategic and comprehensive partnership, and now an offer to the Gulf countries on strategic partnership agreement, where we are, of course, entering into negotiation in a good faith, knowing what are our position, what are our values, and the same goes for the other side. So I think that EU is trusted and valuable partner, that the partners know this, and that we are showing this throughout, at the end of the day, creating a dedicated portfolio, a commissioner that is here for them. Not all policies will be implemented by us, or not all policies will be implemented by the Commissioner and MENA, but this is why we have what we say whole of a Commission approach. This is a document adopted by the Commission, and there's a number of initiatives that will be implemented by other Commissioner Cadiz for the blue economy, Commissioner Jorgensen for the energy, and so on.
We still have roughly 4 minutes left, and I would like to indeed give you the opportunity to join our discussion. I'm looking around. The gentleman here, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the beautiful contribution that you're having. My question is focused more on the synergies between what the European Union is doing and what the European countries are doing. We just saw Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni being invited at the GCC summit as a guest invitee, and it had been 10 years since the last European leader attending one of these events. I would like to know if this type of contribution from single member states could open doors that maybe the Union could not do by yourself. Thank you.
Precisely what I alluded also before, that this framework is nice, but we have a lot of different initiatives and even maybe different interests, so we should not be naive that, well, France might have different interests than Italy or Greece. But again, should we not use this as a momentum? It need not always to be just the European Commission, if I may say so.
I think it's more in the framework of the Foreign Affairs Council, but yes, there are topics where we don't have the unity or the unity that is needed by the treaties. But what I can say that from the pact point of view, there's a huge support from the member states. There has been really a great cooperation with everyone, specifically on the GCC, which again is going. Let's say we consider them neighbors of the neighbors, so the pact is not about them, but they were also consulted. Last year, we had the first EU GCC summit here in Brussels. We will have another one next year in Riyadh, and I think we are delivering on that agenda as well. As I said, the Commissioner is, as we speak, visiting Gulf countries, and she will be also launching the negotiations on the strategic partnership agreement. So I think it's welcome that the leaders of the EU member states are also invited and are present there. We all represent the EU as well, and there is a unity there.
Kaveh, you consulted in your business a lot of stakeholders, also countries. Following on that question, what is your experience? Do you see a coherence, increasingly agreeing on certain basics, and then using this multitude, this diversity in unity, as we have said earlier, on that region as well, which could be a giant leverage?
Sure.
If it's well done, of course.
Sure. I think there is a huge support, as Tina said, from the member state for the pact, and that should be utilized, capitalized on. Having said that, of course, there are also bilateral interests, bilateral relations between member states and partner countries. So that is inevitable. I think if internally there is an honest conversation about the multilateral and a bilateral, and where both tracks could strengthen each other rather than prevent each other from having an impact, I think this issue could be addressed, but it will not be addressed 100%. It will be there. I think it's about political will, and I see a lot of political will and support from member states for the pact.
This region remains one of the most fascinating for good or bad reasons. We would definitely like to continue here also in the Martin Center as part of our outreach into different regions. We have even partner parties in the region, so we are way beyond the European Union. This is a huge asset. I would like you both, thank you very much for having this impressive interview. We continue because the plan of action is what we can measure later on. I'm now handing over to my dear colleague Alicia for the further procedure of the thing. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you.